Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. And welcome to Sticking to My Story, the magical influence of storytelling with Donna Griffit. My name is Colin Mahan, and I'm a program manager at the NASDAQ Entrepreneurial Center. For those of you who may not know, the NASDAQ Center is a nonprofit dedicated to enabling entrepreneurs from all over the world to realize their maximum potentials and grow. As you may have seen just now in the chat, the NASDAQ Entrepreneurial Center, along with our partner Mentor Cloud, launched a free mentor matching platform for entrepreneurs called Mentor Makers. Create your own advisory board to guide and inspire you with in-the-moment mentorship from topic experts and professionals dedicated to providing exceptional mentorship to entrepreneurs across all races, industries, and geographies. So find or become a mentor today by using the link in the chat. As we know, mentorship matters to all entrepreneurs. Their success is dependent on it. Quick housekeeping item, we're going to open up for live Q&A at the end of the event and throughout. So please submit your questions throughout the presentation in the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. Now, none of what we do here could be possible without all the amazing support from our sponsors, including NASDAQ, Lehigh University, Bank of the West, KPMG, Wilson Sonsini, Woodruff Sawyer, BPM, and NZTE. We're humbled by their contributions. Now, during these still unique times, we are curious how sentiment is among the entrepreneurs we work with. So we're gonna start by taking a quick poll to let us know how you're feeling about your business right now. The first question we have been asking since the beginning of the pandemic. Hopefully, optimism's on the rise as things are opening up and markets are doing a little better. The second question, what's keeping you up at night, helps us understand the responsive programming that we should be providing, like this one, for you to help you grow and hopefully overcome some of your challenges. So let us know in the chat. I'm going to let this run for a little bit longer, but I don't want to waste too much time here. So thank you guys for voting. I'm going to end these polls, share these results. All righty, well, optimism's on the rise, but totally understand that there's a little fear, anxiety, and just surviving out there in the audience. And also, what's keeping you up at night? Finance, totally understand that one, but it's a pretty good mix. So hopefully, but through our special guest today, we can get you some more sleep. Without any further delay, please join me in giving a warm welcome to our special guest, Donna Griffit. She's a world-renowned corporate storyteller and a pitch alchemist. Donna, welcome. Hello, you're muted.
Unmute. Yes.
Classic Zoom moment. All right, Donna, well, over to you. Looking forward to learning more. Thanks again.
Thank you so much, Colin. Thank you so much, Isis, and all this incredible crew. I have never presented with such an organized, amazing organization. Not that I would expect anything less from NASDAQ. So hello, everybody. Thank you so much for being here, middle of your day with concerns about finance looming large. So my name is Donna Griffit, and I'm a corporate storyteller, which basically means that for the past 16 years, I have roamed the globe helping people not be boring, captivating with stories, with messages that really drive businesses forward. And in order to illustrate a bit about what storytelling is, I'd like to share a story. How about that? So I have worked with over, 1,000 VCs and startups and accelerators all across the globe. And I see so many pitches of startups that are trying to make it. And it's amazing to me that many, many years later, there are some stories that just stick with me and I remember. And this I call the souvlaki story. So I was working with this great company called Eat With. You might have, anybody heard of them, know of them, you might have done some of their experiences that basically helps. It's like an Airbnb for meals. And they were acquired by Visit back in 2017. But in the very early days, I was working with the founders and they were being very technical, like startups often are. And I said, okay, can you tell me how you came up with this idea? So one of the founders like lights up. He's like, well, I was on my honeymoon with my wife and we were in Greece. And we were, trying to look for authentic food. And all we could see all around us was souvlaki, 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 all the little tourist spots that pop up with it. And I was like, gosh, wonder where the locals eat. And he stopped a woman walking by that looked like a local. And he said, excuse me, can you tell me where the locals eat? And she said, well, what are you talking about? Of course, we eat at home. And he's like, well, how do you wrangle an invitation to someone's home? Like half joking. She's like, oh, would you like to come for dinner tonight? And he's like, oh, no, I didn't mean that. She's like, please do. We have a bunch of other guests. So kind of he and his wife, his new wife, show up that night and sit at a table with 10 other people from many different countries with scintillating conversation, delicious food. And he said, we would have never had this experience if we hadn't just stop someone on the street and ask where the locals eat. And that's the kind of experience I want everybody that's a tourist to have. Now, I might be mistelling the story. I might have gotten some details wrong, but does it really matter? Not at all. Here we are, probably, I think this is probably back in 2009, 10 that I met with them. And I remember it because stories live inside us. And think back on good presentations, good speeches you've seen. Probably the thing you remember most is the moment that touched you, a moment that connected you, the souvlaki moment for you. And those are stories that you can tell again and again. And that is truly the magic of storytelling. So this is my little girl. Well, she's 8 now. This is when she was 2. Lily would gather books all around her and surround herself with books as if she were reading. And she still does this, only now she's devouring chapter books. And her little sister does the same thing. She just gathers all these books and kind of reads. We are pre-conditioned and pre-wired to love stories as kids. I mean, it's just in us. It's innate. It's this hunger for it. And kids can listen to the same story again and again and again. Because you know what's happening? Our brain pathways are learning to organize information within that storytelling. And that's how we remember things. That's how we learn things. That's how we experience the world. Now, the first stories that we could actually visually see happened about 52,000 years ago with cave paintings. And finally, we kind of got this glimpse into what other civilizations were trying to leave us and trying to let us know. It was about that same time that our brain got its last hardware upgrade. Yes, the prefrontal cortex, which is the biggest center for visual processing in our brain, was created. And suddenly people were able to express themselves visually before they even had language. And then as the years went past, nobody sat around the fireplace, the campfire telling PowerPoint presentations. It was stories. Stories are truly our survival. And I bet every person here today can think back of a family story, something that your grandparents told you or your parents handed down the years, and it's so alive in you that you almost feel that you actually were there. Now, stories and metaphors connect between us and they resonate. There's the part in our brain called the insula that when somebody's telling us a story, it's trying to look for similar points in time so we can identify with the person. And then it's like, oh yeah, that reminds me of the time that, and we like have this connection and we're nodding and we're getting it and we're feeling it. And it's super powerful because those are the moments of great influence. Studies show, you know how you say, oh, we were so on the same wavelength, it was amazing. That's just not lip service. There's studies that show that our brain wavelengths sync up between storyteller and story listener to such a degree that we are in sync. We are on the same wavelength. Isn't that amazing? So when you're on the same wavelength with someone, that's a great time to sell, to raise funding, to ask for something. And that's what we all want to strive for, especially in these crazy times. Now, there is a limit to this because, as the great George Costanza said, if you believe it, it's not a lie. Sometimes stories are so powerful that we forget their origin, we forget that they're not our own, and we can kind of get into this moment that and honestly, memories and imagination can measure as powerful as real life events. So we kind of got to dance between the raindrops with that one and never lie, but how can we power our stories to be that powerful to draw people in? And that's what we're going to learn today. And I'm going to do this across the board. My focus is usually startup stories, but I know that we have people from many different organizations, so I want to give you all something. And I also want to invite you to please, if you have any questions, pop them in the Q&A, pop them in the chat. I'm going to check in with the NASDAQ team every few minutes to see if there's any questions. Anything so far, guys?
Nope, we're good.
Okay, great. So let's go on. How do we become power storytellers? So what's this child playing with? Usually the answer would be Lego, right? If there's engineers in the room, we'll say that's not Lego, that's Duplo, because engineers will always look for what is wrong with what you're saying, because that's their job to pick things apart, right? So who here played with Lego as kids? I'm imagining hundreds of hands raising. Who here has kids that play with Lego? Few less hands. Who here has ever stepped on a Lego in the middle of the night and wanted to commit mass murder of whoever invented this crazy contraption? Yes, they are painful. But tell me this, in an era of endless kind of innovation, we've got tablets and we've got Wii and PlayStations and all kinds of cool technological things for kids. What do you guys think is the main reason that Lego is still the best seller in the entire world? What is it about Lego? And you could pop an answer in the chat or raise your hand. So a lot of answers to this question, people say, yeah, you can build anything and it's creativity and it's endless possibility and it's maneuverable, and all of those answers would be right. Now, Lego is a creative expression where structure meets flexibility. Sounds like a little bit of an oxymoron, right? But think about it. You can build whatever you want. You can build entire Lego towns and buildings, but you need to stick to the structure. You can't start bending it and trying to maneuver it. It's just stack, 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 stack. So simple that even a very young child with very limited motor skills can get it. But it's that simplicity that can set our creativity free. So I want to give you the Lego set for any message that you have. And we'll talk about the most common messages we have, whether it's a presentation or a written document, that will help set your creativity free as soon as you understand the logic behind it and stick to the story. So I have a few guidelines for you today. The first one being write from your audience's perspective. If there's only one thing I can impart to you today, that would be it. That and wear sunscreen right now. Because it's all about them. And sometimes we forget that. So it's all about figuring out what they need, what's missing in their lives, and how we can help them. And as soon as we get that and start thinking of things from our point of view and start thinking of it from our audience's point of view, everything falls into place. So another little story, what audience perspective is. I was flying back from an international flight into San Francisco. I live in the Bay Area, and people were milling around, putting up their suitcases. Remember when we used to fly, how that would happen? I don't know if anybody's been on a plane lately. It's been a while for me. And the pilot's calling over the loudspeaker, can everybody please take your seats so we can take off? Nobody was listening. And finally, he tried something else and he said, ladies and gentlemen, we have a 20-minute window in where we can take off. After that 20 minutes, if we've missed it, we will then be number 37 in a queue, which will put you into SFO an hour and a half late, along with 3 other major international flights and about 600 passengers standing in front of you at customs. Might I suggest that you take your seat? Thank you. Have a nice flight. And what do you think people did? They laughed, they sat down, a few claps. Because what was he thinking of at first? We need to take off our perfect record. We have to keep that. What were they thinking? I just want to fit my carry-on in a way that I can grab it in the middle of the flight. And where do I put my shoes and my slippers? And so it's about thinking about what really matters to the other side. So the best thing you can do is first know your audience's questions and answer them in advance. Yeah, we're not mind readers, Donna. You're not mind readers. Yes, you aren't. But the good thing for you is that people are usually pretty predictable. You get the same questions again and again and again and again. It's pretty much the same who, what, why, when, where questions with a twist. So what you can do is you can intuit the questions before a presentation, whether you're presenting to an investor or a sales presentation or within your organization. I want you to put yourself in the audience's position for a minute and think of all the questions they might ask you, or questions that you really hope they don't ask you. Those are the most important ones. And then you're going to group the questions into 4 chunks. We'll talk about why 4 in a second. And you're going to answer the questions with your slides. So what are you doing here basically? You are creating a presentation or a pitch around your audience's questions. What interests them, not what interests you. That's the key. That's the clincher right here. And that is creating a lot of trust because they see as you go along, oh, wow, they're answering my questions. That's something I would have asked. This is really cool. So as we go, we really build that. Now, why chunk and why 4? When we start off learning as kids, if anybody has young children, they're total sponges. Their brains are supple and they can take in a lot of information at once. When we get a little bit older, it's a little bit more challenging because our hard drives are very full. Our operating systems are like Windows 19 or even DOS. And more than that, as people and as adults and thinking humans, we've learned a thing or two, and we basically could be teaching what they're teaching us, right? So if you've tried to learn something new, a new language, a new dance, a new skill or something, it's a little harder as rusty adults. So there's a principle called the principle of chunking, which is supposed to help the adult brain learn. And the formula is 5 + 2 - 2, meaning 3 to 7 chunks of information is the optimal for the adult brain. Any less than that, we feel cheated. Any more than that, we ain't going to remember it anyway. And I say, go for 4. 3 works too, but 4 is a good place in the middle. So think about this for a second. If I would have started the presentation today and said, hi, everybody, today we're going to be talking about fresh fruit. We'll be talking about apples, bananas, mangoes, strawberries, cherries, passion fruit, coconut, and pears. What do you remember from that list? Pears, right? Or whatever your favorite one is. I don't even remember what I put on that list. But if I were to say, hi, everybody, today we're going to be talking about fresh fruit. We'll start off with citrus fruit, which includes lemons, grapefruit, and oranges. Then we'll move on to forest fruit, strawberries, blueberries, and blackberries. And finally, we'll move on to tropical fruit, coconut, mango, and pineapples. A little easier to remember? Yes. That's the whole idea of when I said when the kids are learning stories at the beginning, that's how we organize our world. That's how we organize information. New information, file it there. New information, file it there. New information, ooh, that can be, oh, Houston, we have a problem, incoming unidentified information, an IFO. System will be shutting down in 5, 4, 3, 2, boom. Because if we get this thing that we don't get and it doesn't really quite fit in, we're either going to fight it and argue about it, or we're just going to kind of disconnect. Don't do that to your listeners. Make it easy on their poor overloaded brains and keep the information chunked in a nice way. So before I reveal the chunks of presentations, are there any questions on the chat or on the Q&A? I'm going to take the silence as a no. Hello?
Looking good here, Donna.
All
No
right.
questions yet.
Excellent. All right. Thank you, Isis. So, questions you can expect if you are giving one of these presentations. So, I've done the hard work for you and I've put down all those questions and I'm chunking them together. So, the sales presentation, the situation or the problem, possible solutions, product details, next steps. Look how similar a technical presentation looks to that. Yes, engineers do not like to hear this, but they are actually salespeople. Shh, don't tell if I won't tell if you don't. Brand plannings, financial reports. I'm going to dive into a couple of these just so you see what this entails. But this is basically a list of questions all grouped together into 4 or 3 chunks. So let's look at the sales, persuasion, marketing pitch. This is probably the most common message. It's not just if you're a sales individual, it's anything that you want to use to persuade, including an investor deck, which we'll look at as well, but it's the same idea. So think of this as a play in 4 acts. So storytelling goes back to ancient Greece and to Shakespeare and to Chekhov and to Moliere and to all these incredible writers that wrote in acts or chunks. So think of this as your 4-act play. The first act being the need, the challenge, the problem. The second act being the solution, how it works. Now, some of you are probably saying, oh God, you mean she's going to tell us this problem solution thing again? That is so old. That's so over. It is old. It's thousands of years old. And there's a reason that it's been around for thousands of years. It works. It's the way our brains are conditioned to take in information. If you think about movies, same thing. There's about 8 archetypal scripts that get written again and again and again and again. Same structure, different twists, different characters, different colors. It works. Then we go on to like the business data to back up what we're trying to sell them on and the vision for the future, the moving forward, the next steps, the big vision. And finally, I like to end with a slide, value prop, just to summarize all of the great things that you've said, 5 or 6 points. Now, each of these acts or buckets could be a collection of several slides. It's not 4 slides. Please don't get me wrong on that. And we'll talk about numbers of slides, but you don't want to smush everything onto just a few slides. Now let's take a look again at the technical changes. So if you are a technical developer, a product manager, then you have to talk a little bit more technical. Very, very similar. The situation or the need. The general solution, and you can also lay out a few solutions. I would always save your proposed solution for the last, once you've kind of proven that the other 2 might not be the best way. The technical details, the implementation, and then how are you going to make it work? How are you going to apply it? How are you going to implement it? Product status and update. Overview of the product. What's the current status on development? What are some potential challenges and what are your needs in order to move it forward? And what are the next steps that various parties have to take, yourself included? What do you need to make this happen? Investor pitch, I told you, very, very similar to the sales and persuasion, but here we're gearing it much more towards investors, and there's a specific set of data that they need in order to make an informed decision whether to invest in you or not. And that is something that we can discuss more at length. And you can also look at my website, donnagriffit.com. Under resources, I have the ultimate cheat sheet for an investor deck, a sales deck, and a demo day deck. So it really will guide you through how to create each one in a lot more detail. So please feel free to check that out. And then at the end of the investor deck, I call it the key investment merits, or why us, why now? What are the 5, 6 big things you want to leave them with? So that is the pitch for that. That's the chunks, the acts, your Lego set for a variety of different messages. Questions before I move on? Any questions? Anything?
We got one question from Hugh. He says, why put your product last after others?
Good question. So if there are several solutions, this is less applicable for a startup This is more within an organization. So let's say there's 3 options. So Houston, we have a problem. We can all agree. You get the nod, you get the agreement, you tell the story of what's happened to other people. Then you say, okay, so there's 3 courses of action we can possibly take. 1, do nothing, leave status quo. What's good about that is A, B, C, D. What's not so good about this is, we're kind of stuck in this problem. So here's the other option. We go and we buy a legacy system and upgrade and spend several tens of thousands of dollars a month. And what's good about it? Or here's another thought. And then you can bring in your idea and do pros and cons for that as well. But it's like you've shown serious consideration into other solutions before you've brought in your preferred one. Now, it doesn't ensure that they're going to go with you, but at the same time, it shows that you've considered many different possibilities. And you still might get pushback, but it's not as transparent that you're making one recommendation, okay? Obviously, if you're a startup, you're not going to start selling other people's solutions. It's just going to be about you, even though we do have to talk about competition there. I hope that's all that, Hugh.
Love
Any
it.
other questions?
Yep. So Keith asks, your example of story focused on a case where we might not know why we need something. So he says, what if a product is a cure for cancer where it's pretty obvious why we need it? Do you skip the story or create a story around why it's important?
Love it. Think souvlaki. Go personal. Go with what your personal experience is, whether it's a family member or a friend or the world at large or a heartbreaking case, because when you're working on something that is life related, you can do beautiful storytelling. So right now we're talking about the structure, and we're also about to talk about how we weave the stories into that. So I'm really glad you brought that up, because that leads to my next question. What is the vital ingredient in a suspense or action film that without it, we're just kind of watching a sappy drama? Any thoughts? What must be there? So answers popping up. The music, the suspense. And I will say, okay, so what is behind the suspense? The twist, great. What's behind the twist? The hero. No, it's not the hero. It is the villain. Can you imagine that instead of hearing, Luke, I have a father. I kind of feel like that's what I sound like when I wear one of these. I have a father. Instead of hearing that, you'd hear something like, "Come to Papa, my boy." Or instead of "Hello, Clarice," you would hear something like, "How you doing?" Or instead of Jaws, you had Nemo or Dory. You would not have much suspense in that film, would you? So we want to build the suspense in our story from the get-go. And that means we need to find the villain in their lives. And no, it's not their manager. And no, it's not their competitor. It's something. It's a concept, a need that you are the hero that will be solving that. So if for a second we look at our same sales persuasion pitch through the eyes of the hero, we're looking at the villain. Your hero's combat strategy, your hero's next moves, and why your audience will love your hero. Disclaimer, please do not ever call the problem the villain and your solution the hero. I will not take responsibility for that. This is our little code for the insider. But that's exactly what we want to think about it. We first have to get them to acknowledge that there is a problem. Yes, we know that there's cancer in the world, but did you know? And then you make that really personal. So we either want to make them feel the pain, and that would be the stick. And we can do that right away in the get-go. Or, hallelujah, I can't believe this is so exciting. I never knew I wanted it this much until the minute you started talking about it. And that would be the carrot. You can go either way, but the best way to do it is to turn it into a story. Now, I don't know if the question of the person that asked about cancer has an origin story that affected them personally. I would encourage you to share it. But there's so many stories, like the souvlaki story, the grief that gave birth to this incredible company that was acquired. Now, Mark Twain said, never let the truth get in the way of a good story. He must have been related to George Costanza. So again, I don't want you to lie, but I do want you to tell your story in the most powerful way possible. And again, it's not stating the obvious. So as another example, I was working with a company, very techy, very high level, the founders were going on talking about computer vision and image analysis for like 10 minutes, and I wasn't getting what it was they were saying. And then finally, one of the founders said, this one time we were in Tokyo and my little storytelling antennas perked up, and I'm like, oh, you mean you came up with the idea in Tokyo? That's so cool. And they're like, no, we already told you, we come from a background of computer science and image analysis and computation. And I said, okay, stop. Y'all came up with the idea in Tokyo, got it? They kind of gave me this funny stare, and then they got it. Because doesn't it sound cooler to tell a story like this? We were roaming the streets of Tokyo, feeling lost in translation, looking at all these beautiful buildings, not having a clue what we were looking at. And we thought, wow, wouldn't it be neat if I could just take my phone and kind of click an image of a building, and right away my phone would be able to tell me what I was looking at, the history, maybe some interesting things around. And we thought, whoa, with our background in computer vision and image analysis, why can't we? And since then, it's become VR, AR, and it's embedded in car windows. So you drive through a town and it's like a pop-up video. You can see all kinds of little tidbits and sales and events going on. Do you think the investors that they pitched to asked to see their passport so they could see if they were in Tokyo before or after they established the company? No. It doesn't matter, though. That's the kind of thing when I mean, never let the truth get in the way of a good story. It doesn't really matter. It's finding that story that resonates. It's not making up, I had cancer, heaven forbid. That's not what you want to do. But you do want to take the story and bring it to life for people, because that's something they will resonate with. Okay? So find the powerful story and tell it at its most powerful. Any questions?
Donna, we got a question right on the, I guess the villainous tone area. So the person telling the story can have a good connotation or a bad connotation. So can you share your thoughts regarding how you can avoid being interpreted wrongly?
Oh, that's a tough one. So you need to really clear the story you're telling with other people, because to you, something might be very innocent sounding, and to the other side, it might be shocking. So definitely check in with that, especially if you're presenting to another culture or to another place. So you don't want to make it like evil. It could be as simple as, okay, so I was working with another company recently, and they're in the cyber world, and they're dealing with ransomware. Now, I've had investors say to me, if we learned something new in a meeting, it was a worthwhile meeting to take. So we were trying to get to a story that would teach them something new. So did you know that ransomware, where a whole system can be held hostage and they won't release the key until you've transferred them millions of dollars to these hackers, they actually have been on systems for months and months beforehand, biding their time, taking data at their leisure, but nobody knows that nobody can detect them until the moment. So a 400 branch medical organization with branches in the US and the UK were held ransom with ransomware. And not only did they lose a lot of money, they were downtime for 2 weeks, not to mention horrible reputation loss. But the thing is, it was too late by the time they found out with the ransomware, because they already had the data. So it was just a matter of time before they started releasing it. And we can help with our solution that detects anyone in the system before the ransomware even strikes. Again, why do I remember this? I work on hundreds of pitches each month because of the stories. I don't remember the exact details of how the cyber works and how it happens, but I do remember the story, and that's what we want to get to. So it's giving a spin, an actual spin, but just telling the story in a way. I hope that addresses the.
It totally helps. One more, and then I'll let you get back into it.
Sure.
But Jeffrey asks, how can we make the storytelling more improvisational so the proposed solution is dynamic and even take input from the audience? Question mark.
Excellent. So first of all, in order to improvise, you have to be one heck of an actor. Sorry, they make it look so easy, these guys that do the whose line is it anyway, but they are incredible at their craft. So they know how to think on their feet. By the way, I think that taking an improv class is an incredible way to be a better storyteller, be a better, I've been an actress for years, and I had to find something else as a career that I loved as much, but it really is amazing. But what can you do to make it dynamic? truly listen to your audience. That's a great thing. So these are my solutions. What do you all have in mind? What do you think? And take it in and write it down and show that you're truly listening to them. And maybe you will get other ideas from them. Again, that won't work so much in an investor pitch, but that will work in a sales pitch if you're trying to sell a company something, but that will work in an organization where you want to open up dialogue among your coworkers. It's great. And then you can improv, and then maybe you're learning something on the moment, or maybe you're going to take it and get back to them with a new spin. I love it. Absolutely. So I'll keep going and I'll come back, and I love these questions. Thank you so much, everyone, and please keep them coming. So this is the list of the villains that I made back in about 2009 at the height of the last big recession and crisis that we had. These were the main problems that startups were kind of working on. That economy, which gave birth to the entire sharing economy, everything from sharing a car to sharing a home to sharing a storage space came out of that. Security vulnerabilities, yep, it was alive then and it's alive and kicking now. Waste in the system. The last three, boredom, popularizing cultural trend, missing a great opportunity. Those are the carrots. Those are the things, the missed opportunities. It's not, boredom is not like, okay, we're not gonna, by curing boredom, we're not curing brain cancer. But at the same time, companies like Snap and like TikTok and YouTube have thrived because people are bored. Look at esports. In a million years did I never imagine the allure of watching somebody twiddle their thumbs and fight the battles of the world, but here we are. So these are massive opportunities that we want to be able to show. At the beginning of the pandemic last March, I sat down and thought, what are going to be the real winners here in terms of companies that are able to pivot or able to bring solutions? And these were like the 5 things I thought about. And I think, the fact that with logistics that we didn't have enough toilet paper the first couple of months. Remember that? No toilet paper. It's like in the US of A, no toilet paper. It's beyond belief. But what was interesting was that I found out the reason. Most bulk of toilet paper is manufactured into these big old gigantic rolls for hospitals and schools and educational institutions. And then everybody's at home. Not enough in supply chain for, the itty bitty rolls that we all need to be in our home. So how can technology solve these things? Digital health, edutech, money saving, remote working, collaboration. These are all pains that we have experienced, are still experiencing. So it's about finding the relevance of your story, your solution now. Now is when it matters. How can you kill that villain or maybe make the villain go away? He can go live somewhere else. Across the ocean, but take it away from us with your hero. And what if we want not to do a presentation, a full-blown depth, but we want to do just like an elevator pitch of our idea, of our product, of our concept, of our startup? Same structure, just shrink the whole thing down. When people think they have a minute to present themselves, it's always this, okay, I only have a minute. I want to make the most of it. I better say absolutely everything I can about my product possible. And then you end up losing that emotional connection that the story gives, that hits you in the heart and hits you in the gut. And they're just in their head. And let me tell you something, if they're just in their head, they're going to pick up their phone and be a lot more interested in that than you. So don't give up. Stick with the problem. You can make it a question. You can ask them a question. So have you ever been somewhere where you didn't read the language, traveled somewhere? Yeah. Oh gosh, I remember the first time I was in China, couldn't read a word of the billboards. The only thing I could recognize were images. It's pretty daunting. And we have solved that. And then you can go into like the one line about your solution. Simply, if you have a little something you can show on your phone, that's great. If you're talking to them one-on-one, or if you're up in front, you can show one slide, and then maybe something super interesting about the business or about the market that's really going to make them want to hear more. Think of this as a conversation appetizer. You want to get into the main course with them, but that's not going to happen after 1 minute. But if you intrigue them enough, they'll want to learn more. Okay, so stick to the structure, stick to the story. How about emails? Can we apply this to emails? Absolutely. So the action message frame is probably the kind of email you write a bazillion times a day and don't even think about it. So here's a frame. And by the way, I will make these slides available to you afterwards. So don't worry about it. You'll get them. You don't have to take screenshots. You can if you want. It's fine. So your action message frame is 5 questions that, if answered, make up the perfect email. What is this about? And that can be handled in the subject line. And it's not just subject. It's not just meeting. Use that like a headline in a magazine that wants to entice them to read more. Does this involve me? Hi, sales team, or hi, Joe, or hi, the people. Everyone else should not even be involved. What do I need to know? Here are the facts that you need to know. A, B, C, and D. Anything required of me. What I need from you is, before you leave the office on Friday, please have the report filed so we can stay offline all weekend. If so, what's the next step? And then you give them like the details. 4 lines, 5 lines, and you will start to see way more responses. And it doesn't mean you can't be personal and be polite and say please and thank you. You can put those in, but this is really what will give them their action. If you might have resistance, add in number 4, what's in it for me, or what's the consequence for me? People are motivated again by the carrot or the stick. Give them a reason to want to take the action. This is like my favorite tool. I use it all the time in writing kind of sales persuasion emails. This is actually the baseline of how I write one-pagers or sales documents for companies. It's these 6 questions. Well, first of all, what is this about? Again, that can be handled in the subject line. Do you understand my need? And again, that's the whole looking at things from your audience's perspective. This is really understanding them and showing and starting off with that story and starting off with the empathy that shows them that you get it. How does your solution, service, proposal benefit my need? Again, who's asking these questions? The audience, not you. What are the main features of your solution? How has it benefited others like me? And if I'm interested, what's the next step? Right? So this is the perfect persuasion email. Give it a try, see how it works. Happy to hear success stories. Now, here's the thing about writing. It has no tone, okay? Nobody knows with what kind of playfulness you are saying it. So if it's a very difficult email, stick to answering their questions. Do not hit send. Let somebody read this to you. And remember to start with that empathy. Change the word but to and. Okay, this is something I want you to try at home too. Anytime we say yes, but, we have completely cut the person next to us off. Whereas I hear what you're saying, and I think that we're joining them. It makes for a much more inclusive communication. But if it does get too heated, don't be afraid to get on a Zoom or have a call or have a meeting. Sometimes things should not be written. Okay. Questions before I move on?
We've got a couple. One is, how have you seen COVID change the emphasis or focus of the pitch deck for investors?
Absolutely. Why are you relevant now? Just like that list I showed you of the solutions. Why are you relevant now in the post-COVID world? And I don't want you to write COVID, 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 COVID. What is the reality we're dealing with that you are aiding? Other question?
Yep, and this one is around the our good friend Keith. And I think it would be valuable for everyone to learn this. If we pitch to a VC, we want them to feel like the hero, right? Question mark. We also want them to identify with a person in their lives who has cancer.
Exactly. Yes. So you want them to either think of themselves using the product, or someone they love using the product if it's not something that they can identify with, and also the hero in the fact that yes, they will be making a lot of money. That's the bottom line. I mean, not altruism when it's an investor, when it's a VC investment. So,
and do they care if I have a person in my life who has cancer?
Oh, yeah. So you know the pain of it, and that's something you can impart to us from a very authentic place. And it's not being exploitative. It's being honest. And I think that authenticity really resonates. Okay, going back to this, I see we're getting short on time. I want to get through everything. Show, don't tell. Steve Jobs could have stood there for an hour talking about the iPad, but the minute he showed it, we just got it. It just clicked right in. So you want to have a powerful demo. It can be a video, it can be a series of screenshots, it can be a mock-up, whatever it is to show your user's journey, okay? Because you're killing two birds with one stone. One, you're showing that you really understand your audience and their need. And two, showing off your solution or your product by their journey. So you can start off with the before story. You can even have that as your opening story, your villain story. Tell it through the eyes of an actual user, an actual customer, whether it's a sales deck or an investor deck. I call this the deconstructed demo. So you start off with the pain and the horror of their life before they met you. And then there's many others in the industry like them. And then let's go back to them for the demo, onboarding, implementation, results, testimonial, they love you. And then you could do one or two shorter user stories as well. And you show off your killer features through the story. And it's so much more powerful doing it that way. And if you do have testimonials and you do have customers that love you, let them speak for you, because those champions are way more powerful than what you can tell about. Don't make your audience want to commit suicide. Don't data dump, okay? You should have one big idea per slide, because I'm sure we have all sat in front of these slideshows with 50 bullets and an 8-point font, and you just want to die at that moment. You can't even look at it, and you just find something else to do. And why do people still do that? Because they're afraid they're going to forget something, or they're afraid their audience isn't going to get it. And then what happens? They look like they don't know what they're doing because they just shoved a bunch of text in our face. This is not a document. Okay, presentation does not equal documentation. One big idea per slide. And it should be the one big idea that grandma or grandpa could understand. This is not a gender thing, this is a generation thing. In the words of Einstein, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. And of course, there's a little story that goes with that. I'll tell it fast. Was training a group of hardware engineers at Intel. This guy gets up to present this slide, and it's like, well, the multi 1 gig LAN backbone, the 10.1 gig VMAC, and the SPI 4P2 slot 1net processor of the backplane goes into the CSI X2 switch fabric. Let him go on for a few minutes. I was not getting it. And I stopped and I said, thank you, that was nice, which of course does not mean it's nice. And I said, now, could you explain what you meant by this? And he looked at me kind of like, was this duh, like what's not clear here? And he's like, oh, well, the multi 1 gig LAN backbone, like going super slow as if I was a very problematic child. And yet I still was not getting it. And I said, okay, let's try this again. Could you explain it to me so my grandmother would understand? And he looked at me with this renewed excitement and almost tears in his eyes. He's like, you mean your grandmother's an engineer? Really? It's like, must have skipped a generation. And poor guy had to disappoint him that 9 of my grandmothers, God rest their souls, were engineers. But have you ever tried to explain to your grandparents or even your parents what your startup does, what your company does? It's not always easy, but it's up to us. It's up to us to explain it. I got on a coaching call with a European startup last week, which was the first time I really encountered rudeness, and their pitch was way off. And I started asking questions about, what are they really saying here? And they're like, oh, you're judging our product. And I'm like, whoa, I am not judging your product in the slightest. I'm just saying, if I were listening as someone you were selling to, you are saying these claims that just make no sense to me. I'm sorry. So they got very defensive. And this is not about getting defensive. This is about getting to the core of it. All this guy was basically saying was, Grandma, we're doing much more in much less space. Grandma, once upon a time, entire rooms were filled by big clunky computers. And today, your phone, is a bazillion times faster and a bazillion times smaller. Because it's all about them. It's all about the other side listening. It's not about you and it's not about your product. It's about them getting it and feeling smart. People want to buy from people that make them feel smart. People want to invest in people that make them feel smart and that they are coachable and open. So cool the argumentativeness, cool the hurt if somebody doesn't get it, and make it about them and simplify it. Okay, almost at the end here. This is the silver bullet slide. This is one that can be super powerful for you, and it's the opportunity. And again, we just had a question about that. About, okay, why COVID? Why us? Why now? You need to show that sense of FOMO, creating urgency. No investor or no business executive wants to feel left off the train of the next big thing that can make them successful. So you need to turn up that sense of urgency as to the why now. And I usually look for 3 trends. It can be a behavioral trend, market trend. It can be a regulatory or legal trend happening. It can also be competitors of yours getting big investments or acquisitions. That's a great signal. That's a great signal to show that this is a hot arena. Don't be afraid of those moments. And make them feel like if they don't get on the FOMO train, they will be regretting it the rest of their life. And finally, I want you to end with inspiration. You started with a story, you started with a vision. End with that same kind of power. How will you get to your big vision? Now, I often get startups questioning, yeah, but if I tell them about our big vision and like how we're going to be in other markets or have other features, won't they think I lack focus? And I just had a conversation with a VC partner yesterday who I'm going to be working with one of her portfolio companies today. And she said he doesn't get what an amazing vision he has, and he's afraid of making it feel scattered. You heard it from her, not from me. Show how you will bring us to a much bigger vision, and you're super successful with what you're doing now, but it's just going to get bigger. Okay, paint a big, broad, bright picture. Couple little bonus tips, and then I'll open it up for questions before we end. Your slides should look as good as your product. There is no room for shoddy looking slides. You can use a lot of online tools like Canva and SlideBot and SlideBeam, beautiful AI, or just hire someone that's either a graphic designer or someone from your team. If you have a UI designer, pay them for a few extra hours and get them to make your slides look great. We eat with our eyes. You would not believe how many investors I have heard say, I can't even look at your slides. They're such a mess. It does matter. Fear. Anybody ever feel a little bit nerves before presenting in front of an important group? Yeah, probably. So usually ask people, where do you feel it in your body? And it's either butterflies in my stomach or shortness of breath, heart beating fast, dry mouth. I call this the pipe of terror, everything from your mouth to your belly. Now, put that aside for a second and think about the last time you were really excited about something. A big meeting, a big trip, my workshop today. Where in your body did you feel the excitement? Butterflies in my stomach, heart beating fast, shortness of breath, dry mouth. Really? Yes, same exact thing. Fear and excitement are twin siblings that live together, and it's just about flipping the coin. All right. So instead of he saying, oh my gosh, what's going on? I'm feeling butterflies in my stomach. Oh yeah, I'm about to give a presentation in front of 300 people. Oh my gosh, I'm so nervous. And then those little butterflies, they turn all black and grow little fangs, and they fly up to there, and they're choking you, and you can't concentrate. Put that aside, and the next time it's like, oh, I'm feeling butterflies. What's going on? Oh, I'm about to give a presentation in front of 300 people. Woohoo! Exciting! I'm so excited. And those butterflies love a good party, and they will throw on their Burning Man clothes and start popping some shots of some good vodka, and then dance into tiesto, and they start to fly, and they take you with them, because those butterflies can be our best friends if we let them. And then fear becomes face everything and recover, leading us to the last spot of the day, because often you've given great presentations and you've been an amazing storyteller and you've captured that feeling beautifully. Bottle it up and walk in the room at your best, whether it's a live room or a Zoom room. They don't know that you had 2 hours of sleep because you had a bug in your system, and they don't know that you just had an argument with your partner, and they don't know that you were caught in traffic. All they know is you walking in the room is you. And they really want to like you. They do. They want to do business with you. They want to invest in you. They want to buy from you, but they want to know that this is someone who's going to be a pleasure to work with, for better, for worse, in sickness and in health, until death or taxes do you part. because there is no second chance for a first impression. And starting with the story is a darn tootin' good way to really make that great first impression. So I want to end with a quote, which is, again, another very powerful way to end. Stuart Butterfield, the founder of Slack, said, if there was one piece of advice I could give to my younger self, concentrate on the storytelling, on convincing people. If you can't do that, it doesn't matter how good the product is. So he said it, not me, but I live it and believe it. And I think storytelling is one of the most powerful things around. So you find your story, and if you need help finding it, I'm here for you. Wishing you all tons of luck and happy to take a last few questions, and thank you for being here today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Donna. All right, we don't have much time, but hopefully we can just speed round through a couple of these ones that came in. Michael, one of the center's coaches. Hey, Michael, shout out to you. Should stories be woven throughout the presentation or primarily?
Yes. It's the structure, but they're woven in. You can go back and count how many stories I told you today. There's probably about 6 or 7 woven in to emphasize points. Yes.
Amazing. Which pitch style is best for crowdfunding?
Speaking directly to the audience and making them really want what you have.
Awesome. And then the villain you described is the same as what we call pain points, question mark?
Villain, pain points, need, gap, wound, whatever. Yes. Or it also could be opportunity.
Amazing. They keep coming in. Let's see. Everyone's saying thank you.
Oh, my pleasure.
All right. And then I think this is one of the best talks I've attended. Thank you, Donna. Thank you. So I think we're running out of time, but what's one key takeaway you want our audience to take away?
If you want to be remembered, tell a story. If you want to be forgotten, give facts and figures. That's all.
Well, I love that, and really appreciate your time, talent, and energy today. And thank you, everyone who dialed in to learn more about storytelling. Looking forward.
If there's any other lingering questions, please feel free to shoot them out to me. I'm happy to answer.
Amazing. Yeah, we'll provide this Donna's contact information in the or her website in the slides that we'll send after this. So thank you so much, Donna. And for everyone in attendance today, we appreciate you joining us. We've got a couple other upcoming webinars. So tomorrow we've got mentorship with military entrepreneurs, U.S. Air Force and Vets in Tech. And next week we've got how to launch with Benita Hortra. So thank you, Donna, again. You're amazing. This has been great.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for your incredible setup of the all event.
Amazing. And thank you all for joining us online. We look forward to welcoming you back online soon. Take care, everybody.